Good morning. It is April 26th. We are in Judges 6, 1 through 40. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying crops as far away as Gaza. They left the Israelites with nothing to eat, taking all the sheep, goats, cattle, and donkeys. These enemy hordes, coming with their livestock and tents, were as thick as locusts. They arrived on droves of camels too numerous to count, and they stayed until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. Oh, how much suffering could have been avoided if only they had cried out first. When they cried out to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. He said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from all who oppressed you. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I told you, I am the Lord your God. You must not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you now live. But you have not listened to me." Then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash of the clan of Bezer. Wouldn't that be awesome to see God just sit beneath the tree and be able to go and talk to him that way? That would be amazing. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of a winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." "Sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." Or it could be, "I am sending you." The Lord refers to himself that way. He is the great I am. "But Lord," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family." Humility right there. We can learn something from Gideon. Too many people think way too highly of themselves. The Lord said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man." Gideon replied, "If you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really the Lord speaking to me. Do not go away until I come back and bring my offering to you." He answered, "I will stay here until you return." Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat, and with a basket of flour he baked some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel who was under the great tree. The angel of God said to him, "Place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock and pour the broth over it." And Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock and consumed all he had brought. And the angel of the Lord disappeared. Oh my gosh, it kind of gives me goosebumps. If I could go back in time, I think I would want to go back in time to see some of these miracles happen. I really would. Because it's just amazing. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he cried out, "Oh, sovereign Lord, I'm doomed. I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." "It is all right," the Lord replied. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it Yahweh Shalom, which means, "The Lord is peace." The altar remains in Ophrah in the land of the clan of Bezer to this day. That night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one that is 7 years old. Pull down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. Then build an altar to the Lord your God here on this hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using as fuel the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down. And in the end times, it's going to, Jesus had told us it's going to be like father against son, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, son against father. And here it's already happening. So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord commanded. But he did it at night because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town. Early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down and that the Asherah pole beside it had been cut down. In their place a new altar had been built, and on it were the remains of the bull that had been sacrificed. The people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making a careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, the son of Joash. "Bring out your son," the men of the town demanded of Joash. "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and for cutting down the Asherah pole." But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him, "Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." From then on, Gideon was called Jerub-Baal, which means, "Let Baal defend himself," because he broke down Baal's altar. Soon afterward, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord took possession of Gideon. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abizer came to him. He also sent, is it Abizer? Is it Abiezer? I don't know. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, and Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way." More proof? "I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to help me rescue Israel as you promised." And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up early the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole bowlful of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Please do not be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece for one more test. This time let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. Aren't we the same way? And honestly, I can kind of relate because there may have been other times when we felt sure that God was saying something to us, but then it doesn't work out the way we anticipated, or God's hand just isn't in it, or whatever. And so when we feel like God's talking to us again after that, then don't we ask for proof? Because we don't want to not follow God. So I kind of get it, Gideon. I kind of get it. All right, Luke 22:54 through 23:12. So they arrested him and led him to the high priest's home, and Peter followed at a distance. The guards lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, and Peter joined them there. Now remember, they've arrested Jesus, came out and got him, and one of the disciples slashed off a servant's ear, and Jesus healed it. A servant girl noticed him in the firelight and began staring at him. Finally, she said, "This man was one of Jesus' followers." But Peter denied it. "Woman," he said, "I don't even know him." Remember what Jesus said, that Peter would deny him 3 times, so there was the first time. After a while, someone else looked at him and said, "You must be one of them." "No, man, I'm not," Peter retorted. Number 2. About an hour later, someone else insisted, "This must be one of them, because he is a Galilean too." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. At that moment, the Lord turned and looked at Peter. I'm envisioning that scene from The Passion of the Christ. Suddenly, The Lord's words flashed through Peter's mind. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. And Peter left the courtyard, weeping bitterly. I cannot imagine how painful that had to have been for Peter. How ashamed he must have felt. It's very easy for us to deny him. Nowadays, we didn't see the crucifixion. We didn't see what Jesus did for us. You have to go on faith, and you have to, read his word to hear what happened to him. But I would encourage you not to do that. Never be ashamed of being a Christian, of following Christ. The guards in charge of Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and said, "Prophesy to us. Who hit you that time?" And they hurled all sorts of terrible insults at him. At daybreak, all the elders of the people assembled, including the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. Jesus was led before this high council, and they said, "Tell us, are you the Messiah?" But he replied, "If I tell you, you will not believe me, and if I ask you a question, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated in the place of power at God's right hand." They all shouted, "So are you claiming to be the Son of God?" And he replied, "You say that I am." "Why do we need other witnesses?" they said. "We ourselves heard him say it." But he didn't, did he? Then the entire council took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. They began to state their case. "This man has been leading our people astray by telling them not to pay their taxes to the Roman government and by claiming he is the Messiah, a king." So Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "You have said it." Pilate turned to the leading priests and to the crowd and said, "I find nothing wrong with this man." Then they became insistent. "But he is causing riots by his teaching, wherever he goes, all over Judea, from Galilee to Jerusalem." "Oh, is he a Galilean?" Pilate asked. When they said that he was, Pilate sent him to Herod Antipas, because Galilee was under Herod's jurisdiction, and Herod happened to be in Jerusalem at that time. Herod was delighted at the opportunity to see Jesus because he had heard about him and had been hoping for a long time to see him perform a miracle. Like a trained monkey or something, I guess. He asked Jesus question after question, but Jesus refused to answer. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the teachers of religious law stood there shouting their accusations. Then Herod and his soldiers began mocking and ridiculing Jesus. Finally, they put a royal robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. Herod and Pilate, who had been enemies before, became friends that day. Now, you may have noticed that a little change, and it's because of this head issue that I have. And you may be wondering, how can I still want to read the Word of God whenever I have this affliction that there is no cure for, and whenever that I have to suffer so greatly? Sometimes it's very debilitating. It's the worst pain I've ever known. And the answer is what Jesus is about to go through. He suffered a great deal more than I ever will. My whole lifetime, with all my pains put together, is nothing compared to what Jesus is about to do. And then also, like Paul said, Paul was afflicted in his hip, and he pleaded with God 3 times to take it away. And God said his grace was sufficient. So it's my lot, and I have accepted it. And I will deal with it, but I will still praise the Lord because he suffered for me. He suffered terribly for me. He died for me, and he rose again so that I can have a place in heaven. And he did all that for you too. And if you don't know him, I highly encourage you to do it right now, because you are not promised another minute. And there you go. There's the Bible reading for today. Don't forget to click over here for Psalms and Proverbs. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless you guys. I love you. Bye.